spring is a really fun time for me to stroll around the yard, look at the flowers that are growing, and bring them inside and make arrangements, and then make nice photographs of them to either turn into wall prints or to make greeting cards or whatever. Just I really enjoy the thoughtful process of arranging flowers and then finding beautiful ways to photograph them. So today I would like to show you how to use the Snapseed app to turn a photo like this into a photo like this in just a few simple steps. So there are a few things I'd like to take care of in this photo that are all quite simple to handle in Snapseed. And I'm going to try to take care of them either by cropping or adding a vignette around the photo or using the healing tool in Snapseed. So you can see where the red arrows are the things that, little things that bother me about the photo. Some blemishes in the photo that I would like to get rid of. So I'll first start by cropping the photo. That might take some of those out. And then I'll also show you how to use the healing tool to get rid of the things that aren't taken care of by the cropping. So here I am in the opening screen of Snapseed. First thing I'm going to do is choose Tools in the menu bar at the bottom of my screen, and you see a wide range of tools become available to me. I typically like to start with the cropping tool because that gives me the image, the frame of the image, so that I know what I'm working with the whole time throughout. For this image, I'm going to use the free cropping. A lot of times I'll use square cropping. That's limiting to me in this particular photo. I'd like to have a little bit more range over the ratios, so I'll go with free cropping. And you can see this is my original, but I'm going to try to crop at the bottom to get rid of that blemish in the lower left corner there. And then I'm going to bring it down in the top, bring it over a little bit to get rid of that shadow and some of that crack in my plaster wall. And I think right there is about even. I don't want that vase to be totally centered. It's a little bit more interesting if I move that over to the left or the right. So I think we'll go with right there. And then when I have it where I want it to be, I'll click this check mark in the lower right corner. So that's my new photo that I'm working with. Now there's still one blemish that I'd like to get rid of along that window where the paint is chipped. So that's bothering me. I'm afraid my eye's going to want to always go toward that. So I'm going to click Tool again. This time I'm going to click the healing tool. And I'm going to zoom in on that area where the paint is chipped. And then I'm just going to paint over top of that. And when you see when I lift up, blemish is gone. And I'll zoom back out. Actually, I just see a little speck of dirt too. My goodness, I think I need to clean. And there we have it. So some of the blemishes are removed. There's one more. And that'll give me a good place to start with some other edits here. I'm going to take this crack out as well. That just leaves me some small steps that I can take to pop out the color next. I'm ready for the next step, which would be to work a little bit on the color. The color's already quite fine in this image because I chose to place this vase in a window, which really cascaded some nice natural light onto the scene. So there's not much I need to do with color, but I always like to pop color just a little bit anyway. So I'm going to go down to the tool feature again, and then I'll choose Tune Image this time. And you can see within the Tune Image menu, there are lots of aspects of this photo we can work on. Brightness, contrast, saturation, and you can see the rest. I like to start with ambience, and that works a little bit with the light. So if I drag my finger to the left or to the right and to the left across my scene, you can see all kinds of variation with that light. Now, one thing I like about this image is that the vase is half in shadow and half in light. So I don't want to drag so far to the right that the light becomes even on that vase. I particularly like that shadow. So in this case, a little bit is going to go a long way. There's my normal photo there, but I'm going to drag a little to the right, and you can see up at the top of my screen, the ambience is increasing with a number. So basically, you just kind of have to play around with this and get it to a place that you like. I think I'm going to settle right there around maybe 21. Still leaves a little bit of shadow on that vase, and still makes the light look natural on those flowers. So when you're done, again, press the check mark. And you can see if I just hold my finger down on this photo, this is what it was, and this is what it is now. Go back into the tools and back to the Tune Image where I just was. And this time I'm going to work, I already covered the ambience, I'm going to work on the saturation now. You can see again, if I drag all the way to the right, really saturates every color. If I drag to the left, it desaturates every color. So if I go right back to the middle, this is where I was, I'm just going to slightly saturate those colors. Just a tad. And then click my check mark. Then I'll go back to Tune Image. And there's one more thing I'd like to work on. I'd like to check the warmth of the photo. Maybe, I think I'm going to actually decrease the warmth just a tad, because that vase got really warmed up and saturated, and I don't want it to look unnatural. So I'm just going to take the warmth down to about a -9. And then click my check mark. So if I hold my finger down, this was how I started. And when I lift up off the screen, this is where I am now. Next step is I'd like to add a shadowy vignette around the photo. One way that we could do that is I could click my tools and just go to the vintage setting, which automatically gives you a wide range of vignettes that you can use. I always like to scroll through these, find the one that works the best. I think this first one, number 1, works pretty good, but it's a little heavy. So what I'm going to do within that vignette is I can adjust the brightness, the saturation, the style strength, or the vignette strength. So I'm going to go back to brightness and drag left to right on my screen. And you see what that does is that pops out the brightness in the center of the image. And I kind of like what it does on those green leaves in the center. So I'm going to pop those out just to maybe about a 20. And then the vignette seems a little heavy to me, so it's at a 30 right now. I'm going to decrease that vignette ever so slightly. Maybe down to, let's say, a 25. And then I'll click my check mark, And then I always like to check by holding my finger down, seeing the original, and then coming back to the new image. There are a few things, just minor things I think I could still change. The allium, the light purple flower in the kind of the center of the arrangement, seems to have gotten a little dark in the process. So something I can do to fix that is to go to the tools. This time on the top row, I'm going to choose the Selective feature. And you can see that I can tap on that allium and it puts a B with a circle around it. That way I can just focus some work on just that allium by pinching and zooming out. So all the areas where you see the red, that's where I'm going to have impact. So I want to bring that in so those red spots are just on the allium. And B stands for brightness here. So I'm going to just brighten that allium ever so slightly. I don't know if you can see that. See, it gets darker and brighter. So that gives it just a tad little bit of glow. So I'll click my check mark. And I think I actually want it to glow just a little bit more. So I'm going to try that again. Selective. Tap on that allium. Maybe I'll tap over here on the right side of it this time. There we go. Zoom in by pinching in with my thumb and my forefinger. And then increasing the brightness on the right side of that allium. So it's brighter on the right side, a little darker on the left side. And then I hit my check mark to be done. So let's do the finger test. Lay my finger down. That's the original. This is the second image. Here I am back one more time. After I looked at the photo a little bit, I found a few areas that I thought could help to make colors pop and help to make the overall scene a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to go back to Tools and choose that Selective tool again on the top row. Sometimes I think purple can be difficult to see, or to see the difference between purples and other shades in your images. So I'm going to add a little bit more brightness to this one purple iris in the upper right corner. So I'm going to click where I want to work, and I'm going to zoom in, pinch in and out, and you can see all those red spots are the area that I could potentially make brighter. And I'd like to make this iris a little brighter because it's close to the window and it seems to have gotten a little dark in the process. So I'm just going to pop the brightness up a little bit there, and you can see that does a lot for adding maybe a different shade of purple and to really capitalize on the light that it should be getting from that window. Sometimes when you add a lot of vignettes and filters, you need to go back through and adjust brightness at the end like that. So I'm gonna hold down, that's what it was, but with the brightness, that's what it can be. And I think that's adds a nice little touch. I'm also going to add a little brightness over here where this petal of this iris, you can already see that it's catching more light, but I'm just going to go ahead and accentuate that a little bit by just popping up the brightness just ever so slightly, and then maybe doing the same thing right here where I naturally see a little bit more light. Just pop up that brightness just a tad. And there we go. I'll click my check mark And again, we'll check and see what it was versus what it is now. There's one more place where I'd like to use the healing tool. In the background, there's a place where the wall meets this shelf where you can see kind of a black streak. So I'd like to zoom in there and just get rid of that. I don't want anything to distract the eye from looking at the beautiful flowers. And hit my check mark again. So I think this is the edit I'm going to settle on. So let's go original and final product. So hopefully you have some ideas for things you can do to really pop out your spring flower arrangements.